Welcome to the I Ask e-learning program for the final exams. My name is Ágnes Lepold and I'm going to help you to prepare for the English exams. Have you ever told your relatives about e-learning? What faces did they make? Well, this is a meme that one of my students made and sent to me about e-learning, but I hope by now everybody has got used to it. Okay, so let's talk about the speaking exam tasks in the exam. Kicsit magyarra váltok, hogy semmiképpen se tévezd el a lényeget. Két szinten foglalkozunk a szóbeli angol érettségi vizsgákkal, középszinten, ezt O-level jelöli, ahol 3 feladattípusra számíthatsz, egy beszélgetés, egy interjúra, egy szituáció eljátszására, egy szerepjátékra, illetve egy kép alapján való egyéni gondolatkifejtésre. Tehát az O-level a középszint. A-level, ez az emelt szintet jelenti, itt is van egy beszélgetés, egy interjú, ezt követi egy vita, egy megadott kijelentésről, és végül szintén egy kép alapján egy önálló témakifejtés. Tehát a következőkben, amikor ezeket megjelölöm, hogy O-level vagy A-level, akkor figyelj arra, hogy te melyik szintre készülsz, melyik típusú feladatokat, melyik témaköröket gyakorlod. Természetesen mindig lehet magasabb szinten. Okay, so let's speak English. So I've shown you the types of tasks that you can get in the exam. At O-level, an interview, a role play, and a picture-based talk. At A-level, an interview, a debate, and a picture-based talk. Look at this meme that another student sent to me. Well, this is quite typical, isn't it? So, today we are going to deal with a topic that involves the topic of friendship as well. And today's topic is human society. So we are going to deal with the speaking exams at O-level and A-level. You are going to see sample answers in this video, demonstrated exam tasks. You will also get some tips how to prepare for the exams. Plus, I will give you some ideas for the writing exam as well. Now let's see what topics are involved at O-level. Describing people, appearance and character. Friends. Teenagers' relationships with peers and adults. Male and female roles. Holidays and celebrations. Clothing and fashion. Shopping and services, for example, the post office. Similarities and differences between people. So these are the topics at O-level, and let's see the topics at A-level. Of course, all those at O-level are included, but you should be able to talk about them at a higher level. Also, human relationships and their importance, for example, friendship, love, marriage, and so on. Teenagers' problems, their rebellion, their finding ways, and so on. Prejudices, social problems, and how to deal with them. The importance of celebrations. Clothing as a form of self-expression. The consumer society. Human behavior. So these are at A-level. And in this video, I'm going to help you with some sample answers. So let's start with the topic of friendship at O-level. You could get questions like these. Why is it important to have friends? What is a real friend like? How can a friend help you? Who is your best friend and why? How often do you see your friends and what do you do together? Do you ever argue with your friends? What about? How do you solve your problems? What is better, to have one close friend or several other friends? As you know, I'm a teacher. I teach at Jurisich Miklós Grammar School in Kőszeg. One of my students has volunteered to help us in this video, and we are going to talk about this topic with her. Okay, Annette, so tell me about your friends. Why is it important to have friends?
I think it's important to have friends, to have a social life, and to be able to talk to people. I think in friendship it's an important thing to be honest and to have a common sense for caring for others. And me and my friends are really similar to each other. We really like to joke around and gossip sometimes.
Yeah, great.
But we have a really fun time together when we go for a car ride with the music on full blast. And
in general, what's a good friend like? What's a really good friend like?
I think in general, a really good friend is when somebody is honest and trustful and can help when we are in trouble or we are having a bad mood.
And how can your friend help you, for example, or how has she helped you?
My friends always help me with talking to me on the phone or just joking around and actually going for a movie to see or a car ride as well, because me and my friends really like cars, and we like going on a ride as well.
And how often do you see your friends, and do you ever argue, for example?
Well, sometimes we argue when we are both in a bad mood, but we always get over it and never stay in a bad
relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
And what sort of things do you argue about?
Well, we sometimes argue about meaningless things like we don't have the same interest or something like that. But sometimes we just argue about how we talk to each other because we are in a bad mood and don't want to talk nicely.
Yeah. And what do you think? What is better, to have one close friend or a group of friends or several other friends?
I always considered having just a few of good friends that I can trust better, because if I have a lot of friends but I can't trust them, it's not as good as trusting someone that I really can talk to.
Yeah, I see. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So let's see another topic at O level, fashion. Now I'm going to give you some questions to think about, and you can practice on your own. How important is fashion for you? Do you try to follow fashion? What is fashionable nowadays? What do people wear on different occasions? Describe your typical clothing on a weekday. How has fashion changed from your parents' generation? Do you think schools should introduce school uniforms for everyday wear? So you could practice these questions on your own. You could write down your answers. You could record your voice and then listen and try to improve it, record again. So I will give you some tips how to do it. Okay, let's go on to A level now, about role models. This is one of the topics that could be involved. So who are some people you look up to and why? What qualities do you appreciate in them? What sort of people do children, teenagers, young people tend to choose as role models for themselves, and why? Do you think celebrities could become role models? Why or why not? Are finding role models important at all? Why or why not? So again, try to work out your own answers to these questions. Write them down or rehearse or record and improve to be able to talk about these questions in the exam confidently. Now let's go on to a topic that we are going to demonstrate today, and it's about prejudices. These are the questions involved. What are some prejudices prevailing in today's society? What are some prejudices that you know of against women, men, some races or ethnic groups, some other groups of people? Why is it a problem to have prejudices? And what could be done to help the situation? I have asked one of my colleagues, who is a native speaker of English, Claire, who is going to help me demonstrate this interview. Okay, all right. So let's discuss the topic of prejudices. What kind of prejudices do you see in today's society most often?
Most often I think I see the prejudice of racism, but also with sexism, most common. Of course, people can have prejudice against anything. But I think those two are fairly common, even though we do our best to treat each other with respect and equally. We still, in the back of our mind, I think, always have these preconceived ideas.
Yeah, preconceptions, a lot of those, what are some examples of this kind of prejudice or discrimination today?
Oh, well, when it comes to sexism, I believe there are many examples to bring out, particularly in the workplace, where many women I know face the glass ceiling effect, where they can be acknowledged for their work, but they don't often get the promotions and the raises. There's also issues with equal pay for equal work, in which case we know that typically women are paid approximately 70% of a man's salary. So this is also a problem, I think.
Yes, have you ever been in a situation when you were discriminated just because you're a woman?
Actually, yeah. One of the schools I worked for, not currently, had a very patriarchal society, very masculine oriented. All of the bosses at higher administration were men. And even in teachers' meetings, my female colleagues and I would take up a process we called echoing. If one of us had an idea, the rest of us would echo that idea in the meeting, just so that our voice could be heard.
Oh, that's great. Yes, to support each other, right.
We truly learned to look out for each other in during these prejudiced situations.
I find it beautiful that women support each other. And how about...
I think that it was necessary.
Yeah. And how about other discriminations, like against ethnic groups or anything? Have you heard of any cases?
Yes, I think being an international person, seeing it differently for each of the countries. When I'm in the States, I see a lot more racism than I do in Hungary here. Particularly, I think it's much more common situation there for people to be judged on the color of their skin, especially because it's such a very international place. There are people from all over the world in the United States, and every color, every nationality. Here in Hungary, I think prejudice is more common against the gypsy people, and it's from what I can see of it as an outsider, I see it more as a cultural prejudice than as a racial issue.
I see. Yeah.
Just because of this different culture But in both situations, I think it is extremely hurtful and difficult. I think it, maybe because I'm a teacher, it's most obvious to me in education situations. Both in the States and here in Hungary, I have heard very horrible things said by other teachers, even about their own students who are different. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, how could this situation be helped? Do you think the government should take steps, or what are some measures or steps that we should take?
I'm not convinced that outside authorities can change the conditions of the heart. I don't know that the government changing things would make a big difference in people's attitudes. I think that it requires proximity. When we get to know people, we learn that they are people. And worthy of respect. By that is what I mean.
Yes, and it would kind of raise awareness about other groups of people, that, oh, they are nice and we can work together. Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. To give an example from recent years, I was teaching and the topic of immigration came up, another form of prejudice, because some of the students were particularly prejudiced against immigrants, especially with the recent crisis in immigration that happened. And I let the students go. I let them speak and tell me how horrible immigrants are and how they are ruining everything, until they wound down and I said, even me. And when I asked this question as an immigrant, I consider myself to be an immigrant. In Hungary, I am legal immigrant, but I do consider myself such. When I watched their eyes, because I knew that as a person I had their respect. And I knew that they were not talking about me, but I wanted them to reevaluate the words that they had said and to see that there was a real person behind the word immigrant in their case.
Right. Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now let's go on to the second part of the exam. At O level, it's a situational role play. Now let's see. Here's an example task. You are in an English-speaking country and want to go shopping. You would like to buy a pair of jeans. Ask the shop assistant where the changing rooms are. Ask for another size. Ask the price of the jeans and buy them. And the examiner plays the role of the shop assistant. Now, I'd like to give you some tips on how to prepare for situational role play like this. For example, these are some expressions that you could use. Excuse me. Can you help me, please? Or could you help me, please? I'd like to. I'm looking for. Can I have? Or could I have? Do you have it in blue, or do you have it in black? Or any other color? Can I try them on? Could I try them on? It's a bit too small, it's a bit too big. Do you have a smaller size? Do you have a bigger size? Could I have another pair? How much? I'll have it. I'll leave it, thanks. Can I pay by credit card, or could I pay by credit card? Okay, so these are some expressions that you could use. They are quite common expressions in any sort of shopping situation or when you need help with services, so it's worth keeping them in mind. So now let's do the situational role play with one of my students, Annette. Okay, all right, so let's do the situational role play, okay? So you are in a shop and you want to buy a pair of jeans. I'm the shop assistant. Okay.
Excuse me, could you help me with
Yes.
these pair of jeans?
Oh, okay, all right.
I would like a size 38. Do you have that size?
All right, let me see. Oh yes, here's a 38. It's not exactly the same color. What color would you like?
I would like blue jeans.
Yeah, a pair of blue jeans. Okay, that's fine. Yes, this is, yeah, I think it's nice. Would you like to try them on?
Yes, I would like to. Could you tell me where are the changing rooms?
Yes, they are just over there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, is the size okay?
It's a little bit too big. Could you give me a size?
Okay, let me have a look. Yes, here's a 36. Yes, it's a little bit darker blue. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay, thank you.
All right, you can try it on if you want to, of course.
Okay, thank you. This size is great. How much would it be?
That would be £70.50.
Okay, thank you, I would take.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, now let's go on to the third part of the O-level exam, which is a picture-based talk. And this time, I've chosen you the topic of family celebrations. So look at the pictures. Compare and contrast them, including the following points. How do you celebrate them with your family? What other events do you celebrate? And tell me about your best memory of a family celebration. Now, let me tell you about these pictures. So this time I'm going to demonstrate this task. So, these pictures show different family celebrations. The first one reminds me of a birthday because it's a birthday cake. The second one, in the second one I can see some Easter eggs and some chicken figures. So it must be Easter. And the third one I can see a child in a Santa Claus cap and part of some Christmas decorations. So it must be Christmas. In my family, we celebrate these events too. And for birthdays, we always make a birthday cake. If it's the birthday of a child, then he or she gets a lot of presents, of course. But if we celebrate the birthday of an adult, we usually just go out to a restaurant and celebrate together, or have a party or a barbecue. So we just enjoy time together. For Easter, we usually prepare a lot. We dye eggs and we prepare decorations. And some religious people in my family also fast during the Lent. And at Easter, a lot of people go to church. In my family too, a lot of them do so and celebrate with the church community, because it's basically a religious celebration. But of course, on Easter morning, we have breakfast together when we eat eggs and ham and cake. And on Easter Monday, the boys usually sprinkle the girls with some water. That's a Hungarian tradition or a Central European tradition, folk tradition. And it's connected to the idea of fertility. So just like eggs are the symbols of life, the water is also a symbol of life and fertility, but it also reminds people of baptism and Christianity as well. Another religious event is Christmas. A lot of people go to church on Christmas Eve or on Christmas Day, even if they are not very religious. But it's originally also a religious celebration. In my family, many of us go to church too. The children get a lot of presents, and it's a whole mysterious event for them. Many of them believe in Santa Claus and in the angels who bring them the presents, or baby Jesus who brings them the presents. There are also a lot of folk traditions. For example, in my family, some people, mother, father, and children together with friends or another community, perform a Christmas play or a nativity play. I think it's a beautiful way to celebrate Christmas. We also celebrate name days and also national holidays, New Year's Eve. One of the boys in my family loves fireworks, so he usually creates a surprise for the family for New Year's Eve. On name days, we maybe bake some cookies and have some drinks or just go out. National holidays are also important. We usually join in with the school celebration or other local celebrations and festivals. My best memory about a family celebration is actually the Christmas play that I have told you about, that my sister's family made, and her children, even when they were very little, also took part, and it was a very heartwarming event. Okay, so this is how you could talk about this topic based on these pictures. Now let's go on to the A-level picture-based talk. These pictures show feelings and emotions. Let's have a look. Compare and contrast them, expressing your views. Now I'd like to give you some expressions for the picture-based talk, which you could use at O-level and A-level as well. First of all, you must describe what you can see. Then you could make guesses about the pictures, then talk about your personal reactions, and then state your views. So let's see what expressions you could use to describe what you can see. For example, in the picture I can see. In the first picture, in the other photo, the photo must have been taken in there is, there are. All the pictures are about, they show. Obviously, I can see different, so that. Then you move on to make guesses about the pictures and to talk about your personal reactions. You could use expressions like this. That reminds me of. Both pictures remind me of. I guess they might, perhaps. This reminds me of. Personally, I prefer this or that because I've never done this or that. I always try to. I like something very much. But sometimes I do this or that. I don't really like this or that because. Okay, and at the end you can state your views using expressions like I think. I'd like to mention the greatest advantage of this is that. Another important or great thing about it is that, however, it can be. Another disadvantage is that I think it's important. All right, now I'd like to give you some tips how to practice speaking. You can record yourself, then listen and improve it and record again. You could practice with a partner. How about using a video chat app? You could write down your sentences with the expressions you want to use and then practice them. You can visit my Facebook group to find out more and more practice options. Here's the link for you. Or you could visit the website where you can find practice options. Here's the link for you. But don't forget the fun element. Join our meme challenge as well, just for fun. Here's one meme that one of my students made, And actually, I sometimes think of it as a way to practice English. So grab the opportunity to be able to talk to someone in English. So if there's an English speaker or just another student or anyone who speaks English, then make friends with them and talk to them. Well, not exactly like this in the meme, but of course, to practice English is really important. So grab the opportunity. Now let's go on to the second part of the A-level exam, which we left out before. This is the debate, and I'd like to show you some debate statements that you could practice within this big topic. Human society is a big topic. It involves a lot of things. For example, globalization is a negative trend that we should fight against. If we really want to help poor countries, we should stop giving them aid. Marrying a foreigner has more advantages than disadvantages. Harder punishment certainly reduces the crime rate. So what do you think about these statements? They are quite controversial issues, so you could collect ideas and arguments on both sides. So here's an example that I did with my students. On the left side, you can see some arguments for the statement, pros, so the arguments for it. And on the right side, you can see some arguments against it. These are just notes, not complete sentences. Why is it important to prepare for these topics like this? Because it helps you prepare for your side, of course, and it helps you prepare for arguments of the other side. So what could the other side say, and how could I answer, how could I contradict those arguments? Okay, and now let's see some advice for the debate. You must insist on your truth, and you must be polite. What does this mean? So, when you insist on your truth, you must stick to your own side and argue confidently. And when I say that you must be polite, I mean that you must use expressions that express that you are not enemies, you are just partners in a discussion. And now, let's do this statement. Globalization is a negative trend that we should fight against, with my colleague who has volunteered to help us in this video. Okay, all right. So what do you think of this statement? Globalization is a negative trend that we should fight against. Do you agree or disagree with it?
To be perfectly honest, I can see both sides of the issue. But if I'm forced to agree only with one side, I would. I believe that globalization is a negative force in general.
Tell me why.
I think it takes over and creates this one world culture in which there's only one viewpoint, one idea, one story that gets told. And I think that that's a dangerous precedent. I think having multiple ideas, multiple opinions, multiple cultures contributing is it's better. I think even if I disagree strongly with many of those stories or cultures or opinions or practices, I think having them as a counterbalance creates a kind of safety for our world.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I can only partly agree with you, because with globalization, all sorts of ideas can spread around the world. So your voice can be heard because the whole world is globalized. There are technological devices that can take your message to the other end of the globe. And that creates a sort of a democracy of ideas as well. But even if there is one prevailing or mainstream idea that you are talking about, it just promotes better understanding Isn't it true, don't you think, that
Well, I can see your point that technology does give a voice to those who don't necessarily have one, but I also believe that the sharing of ideas can be risky. It creates a way for extreme viewpoints, hate groups, terrorist possibilities, even the more strange or unusual, perhaps harmless ideas with these conspiracy theorists who may or may not be taken seriously. I think most rational people would scoff at these ideas, but the fact that they are given equal treatment to more confirmed, rational, accepted ideas can cause harm as we get these fringe groups popping up.
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, with globalization and the cooperation between governments and authorities, isn't it easier to track down extremist groups like terrorists? So when like the FBI or CIA cooperates with European and Asian agencies, they might be more effective. Don't you think so?
Absolutely, I can agree with you on that point, that in this case globalization is a worthwhile endeavor, but I think we must be extremely careful not to lose personal rights and personal privacy within that new world order as well. For all that we maybe have forgotten George Orwell, I think that we need to be a little bit careful with Big Brother watching us.
Yeah, that's true. Globalization obviously has a lot of impact on society, and that we must kind of preserve our privacy as well. But at the same time, if you know that the world can see you, you will know what to share about yourself. And globalization, especially with technological development, gives you the chance to share a lot of things with other people. So I think it also contributes to a sort of openness. So if you, especially if you share or open up yourself to that extent that you feel safe, it could be a good idea to share.
Certainly, I'm all for the idea of sharing and friendship, building bridges across cultures, but I think it's important to remember the idea of assumed knowledge. If I have seen one internet meme about a topic, or if I have seen one photo or one video of folk dance or such, to assume that then I know everything about this, it breeds a kind of arrogance in people without the true depth of knowledge or appreciation for those things. I realize there are a lot of security and economic benefits to globalization, but I have always been on the side of the underdog, and I believe individual countries, individual cultures deserve respect and a full expression of themselves.
Yes, I see. Okay, thank you very much. All right, now grab the opportunity to practice, as I said. Use the tips on the Facebook page, where you can find links, speaking practice options, and meme challenges. And you can go to the website, where you can find more tips and more help for preparing for the speaking exams, as well as writing tips. Okay, some of the expressions that I've shown you can be used also in writing, but on the website you can get particular help for those special tasks that you can get at the writing exam. Thank you very much for your attention, and I keep my fingers crossed for you for the exam.